I was literally just walking, and a man came up and punched me in the face.
Stories from New York City women going viral on TikTok.
I was literally just walking, and a man came up and punched me in the face. I was literally just walking, and a man came up and punched me in the face.
Stories from New York City women going viral on TikTok.
I literally just got punched by some man on the sidewalk.
Their videos detailing how they're allegedly getting punched in the face completely unprovoked. Several women have posted these videos describing similar allegations in just the last week.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
All right. How is everybody doing? I wanted to talk to you today about a phenomenon that's going on in my hometown, which is that women are just randomly being punched in the face by men. They're either on their cell phones, not paying attention, and men just come up to them and punch them in the face. And the reaction by one lawmaker, and generally just by the radio silence of our lawmakers in general, is a complete lack of concern, or that we shouldn't be incarcerating these people. We shouldn't be calling the cops, that we need to be giving them more programs. We've just failed them somehow. There's something that we are doing. We're just not giving them enough. And I find it an epic case of victim blaming. And there was reports all over saying it's just one guy, but it appears not to be just one guy. And no discussion of the fact that our pro-criminal policies have led us here. So in 2019, we passed this bail reform, which was supposed to be for non-violent offenders, but really it's pretty much ended bail almost completely for everyone except the most heinous and publicized cases. So people would know that they wouldn't have there would be no ramifications. They'd go into the police station for a bit, they'd come right out. They really wouldn't be held. Soon as very much, they're out and they do it again. And it was especially bad for women in DV situations because men would just go in and come right back out and retaliate against the woman or the woman again. So it's been a particularly bad situation in New York. Our crime is through the roof. And we seem to be not having very many. We haven't had a famous murder trial here in New York in forever. Manhattan, certainly. And it seems like our prosecutors' offices are a mess. So let's go back to most recently. Actually, let's start with just a news story on the subject matter. Take a look. And we'll get into how women are responding to this. And even women who are victims of this are saying, don't arrest these guys. Yes, we need more programs for them. And if anybody remembers how we got to the 3 strikes you're out law in the 90s that Biden's always under fire for supporting, it is because we gave all these things a shot. We gave this idea that our criminal justice system should be about rehabilitation. It all failed for the same reasons that we're talking about now, people going in and out for the same crimes. and doing ridiculous sentences. So it appears like America is a bunch of amnesiacs and we just forget how we got here, and we're willing to do it all over again. So let's take a look at this phenomenon. This is just one of the many phenomenons in the high crime you're hearing about all the time. People being pushed in front of the subway. They put in special barriers into the subway so that our subway captains could not be injured. It's almost like an obstacle course. I'm not even exactly sure how it works or how it's supposed to work. And our governor, Kathy Hochul, has sent in officers, but without guns. So I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do in these kind of shooting situations, which we've seen in our subways. So it's a very upsetting situation. And you'll see from one lawmaker, she says the best way to honor the victims of these crimes is to give more to the perpetrators. It's truly madness. So let's take a look at some of the news stories on it.
Social media videos are going viral where women are recounting men randomly punching them unprovoked. In just 2 weeks, the NYPD has confirmed at least 5 separate incidents. These are just reported incidents. Victims say they are suffering from concussions, bruises, and bumps. And equally traumatizing, their sense of safety has been shredded. Tonight, we focus on an attack in...
That is if they had any sense of safety to begin with. That's assuming that we felt safe. And also just to note that you also can't protect yourself. Pepper spray, a mace is outlawed here in New York City. So don't try to protect yourself. Just assume that it might just happen and you might be traumatized. That seems to be the answer here by our lawmakers.
Crown Heights, Brooklyn. The man police say is behind the punching assault has already been released by a judge. Our Stephanie Bertini has the story.
Walking on the street and hit by a stranger, victim Dulce Pichardo is speaking out.
As soon as I passed, he hit me very strong.
Did he say anything?
He doesn't say anything.
Pichardo says it was around 5 p.m. on Tuesday in Brooklyn on Grand Avenue between Dean Street and Atlantic Avenue. She was on her way home.
So this is a really nice area. This is not a bad area of Brooklyn at all. It's gotten very yuppified. And to be just hit randomly. And this happened to my bestie girlfriend and her husband. They were on the subway and just a random stranger came up and sucker punched him, and he had his jaw wired shut in 2 places. So this kind of violence has become very commonplace. And when they interview New Yorkers about it, most of the people on the street seem to be like, well, that's just the cost of living in New York City, as if we never had a time with low crime, as if Giuliani never ran the city. It's bizarre.
From work when it happened.
I was bleeding a lot. It hurts. I know something broken because I feel it.
She says she was left with a broken jaw. She lost some teeth and has suffered permanent nerve damage. She was in the hospital. Now she's recovering. Wires are clamping her mouth shut through the healing process, and she may need surgery, she says.
It's numb.
So it's numb, so I can move it. I can feel it.
Pichardo ran to her family restaurant and told her brother what happened.
I said, what happened, what happened? He told me, the guy, he hit me.
Fausto Pichardo says he went after the guy. In the meantime, someone called 911.
I said, I'm not doing nothing.
So he denied it?
Yeah.
Police arrived and cuffed him. The NYPD says friend Judy was arrested and charged for...
Right, but he's right out on the street again. So what's the point? It's almost like a formality at this point. And Salon.com has another reason why this is going on. We'll get to that.
the assault. The 33-year-old pled not guilty and he was released without bail. He will face a judge again in May in connection to the case.
That's why I'm here, tell my story, because I don't want this happening again.
Stephanie Bertini, Fox 5 News.
Okay, so that's one news story, but then they arrested the guy or one of the guys doing this. And it seems like this is happening mostly downtown, not so much uptown, but it's happening to people from all classes, all walks of life. And
Punched in the face, walking home.
Tonight, the man accused of that harrowing attack charged with misdemeanor assault after allegedly punching 27-year-old Michaela Tonato in the face this week. That arrest comes a day after 40-year-old Skaboki Stora was charged for this reported assault on 23-year-old Hallie McGuckin.
I was literally just walking, and a man came up and punched me in the face. Oh my God, it hurts so bad.
Stora, a fringe political candidate who once ran for mayor, has an extensive criminal record, police say. And earlier this week, a third man was charged, accused of punching a 57-year-old woman in the face. The arrests come as dozens of women have taken to social media, sharing stories of allegedly being randomly sucker punched across.
so not one of our politicians here is saying, I'm going to take care of this. This needs to stop. What can I do? How can I help women? And the message to women is just like tough. S happens. That's stuff happens. That's basically what they're saying to women. It infuriates me, this kind of stuff.
New York City.
I was punched in the head in New York City.
He goes, sorry, and then punches me in the head. He spit all over me and then punched me in the side of the face.
The trend placing many women on high alert.
Makes me feel like a little bit paranoid.
It's definitely been scary.
Overall crime in the city is down, but data shows misdemeanor assault is up more than 10% compared.
That's because we're not arresting anybody. That's because our police force is down and they don't arrest anybody anymore. But crime is certainly not down. You have to really talk to someone who understands. Everyone who understands these statistics understands that it's up in all the significant ways in the city. And certainly you can feel it as you walk around the city, that it is not as safe. People smoking in the subway, just the feeling of danger that you get walking around. And the plethora of stories, the endless stories of assault, subway pushing, gun shootings in the subways.
Compared to this time last year. 2 of the men arrested have not yet pled to the charges, and at least 1 has been released.
I feel pretty safe, but again, that's not an excuse to kind of let my guard down.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC.
Right. So she's saying it's up to me to keep my guard up. Well, it's a good advice. But where are the women saying, I'm really angry about this. This shouldn't be happening. We deserve a safer city. And the attitude is even more absurd. And this was brought to my attention by my trial buddy who sat next to me at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, Nadia, who has the Offbeat Effect Substack. I don't know if she's still writing for that so much. Hope so. But I just want to show you. She actually, hold on one second. I have it in a different spot. So she wrote, young females with little life experience are indoctrinated into believing, this is what Nadia wrote, my Maxwell trial buddy on X, that they're supposed, or Twitter, or they're supposed to accept violence and pay for criminals' rehabilitation and housing with their taxes. Leftism tries to normalize the battered wife syndrome. It's an absolute clown world. So they have Nicole, who says, I dodged a punch by likely the same assailant yesterday by 2 inches, but absolutely agree with this. More police isn't going to help. Mental health services, housing, and violence prevention programs would. Really, Nicole, you have the stats on that? Because all the stats say no that I've seen, that those things really don't help. And more arrests do. Let's not give into our worst instincts. So our worst instincts are somehow to punish the people, is to punish predators. That's what Nicole is saying, our worst. And she's putting it over, she's retweeting Tiffany Caban's, who is a member of the New York City Council, who wrote, if our only response to this string of violence attacks against young women is to punish the assailants after the fact. So, Tiffany, are you saying that we should punish them before they do anything? I don't know what is she talking about after the fact? Like, oh, it's already happened. They can't do anything. Can't be undone. I think that's what she means. We will be failing the survivors, meaning the only way we can honor the victims is to do more for the victimizers. Okay, so we will be failing the survivors and the broader public. This kind of stuff. So if anyone doesn't know, I was raised in a radical leftist family, and this is the kind of stuff that just angers me so much, is the identifying of the victims and always picking the predator over the victim, and always ignoring the victim altogether and their needs. So just wanted to show you who Tiffany Caban is, so we get a little taste of her. Here she is. She describes herself. This is the member of New York City Council who says that punishing people after the fact won't help. That we just need to do more for them. She describes herself as queer, abolitionist, New York City Council member repping District 22 in Queens, and she has her pronouns there. And she's celebrating. You can see her. She's saying that inequality is in the fabric of every area of New York City. So she sees injustice everywhere. A very typical leftist view. I mean, far leftist view, say. And top city hall officials are asking, this is just bizarre. But even stranger, or more, is Salon.com wrote an article about this. And it says, men punching random women in New York City, a desperate last gasp of male rage fueling MAGA. And they blame Trump for this. And they say it's part of a larger misogyny, and it all goes back to Trump, as if Biden's accuser, Tara Reid, doesn't exist, I assume. It's just bizarre. So women report being assaulted by men of different races and ages. Still, across the different stories, a couple of similarities pop out. The alleged victims are mostly young and pretty. Well, the first story I showed you, she certainly was not a super young woman. And most of them say they are minding their own business when they were attacked. Some were on their phones or reading on tablets. Others were speaking to friends or daydreaming. Whatever they were doing, they were just living their lives. And that, it seems, is what enraged their assailants. So it always has to have a reason. It's not that criminals like to do this because it's like what they like to do. They like the rush that they get out of it. There has to be some deeper meaning that has to be worked out. And it goes on. I put the link in the description, but it goes on to blame Trump and not our pro-criminal policies that we've embraced in New York. And so if you go, so that's Salon is obviously more to the left. And if you go to the New York Post, they recently had an article called Bail Fail. Study shows that repeat crime increased in New York because of justice reforms. So this is a movement I've been talking about, which I would say the wrongful conviction movement is a branch of these justice reformers. I find it very dangerous. Many of them want to cap off sentences to 20 years, get out as many people, want to think of alternatives to prison, which sounds great until you ask what those alternatives are, and they seem to be just letting everyone roam the streets. Remember back when politicians were touting the success of bail reform, remember the meaningless and deceptive numbers they threw around? New York City Comptroller Brad Lander claimed in a report that only 1% of people released on bail under bail reform are rearrested. But Senator Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins said the number was 2%. Remember how the news and progressive politicians repeat those numbers and claim that bail reform was a success and had no impact on crime, even as crime rose 30 to 40% after bail reform took effect. Well, a new study of bail reform outside of New York City's suburbs and upstate, prepared by John Jay College of Criminal Justice Data Collaboration for Justice, and that's they're very intertwined with the wrongful conviction movement, that 66% of the people released under bail reform who had recent prior arrests were arrested within 2 years of their release. So that will show you that this is not 1%, 2%. Try 30 to 40%. It's madness. And finally, I think I'm just going to keep this kind of, you guys have questions? Kind of short for today. But I also thought this was pretty interesting too. So there was a famous video of a man threatening going up in people's faces on the subway and punching them. And again, this is from my buddy Nadia's ex account. She's been really keeping tabs on the story. So this is a video by a woman who was sitting there as this man went up to each passenger and threatened them on the subway, and she's going to defend the man threatening everybody. So thought we could take a listen to this.
So I'm the girl next to him in that video. It's funny because in the comments, so many people are guessing what I'm thinking and feeling in that moment based on their own biases. Like, there are some people saying, oh my God, that girl looks so afraid. Why is nobody helping her? Where are the men to come save her? And then there are some people giving out to the creator for being scared, being like, that girl beside him isn't bothered. She sees this every day. And I know this is really topical because there's like the subway puncher and things like that.
So is she Irish, and is that her New York accent that she's doing there? She's like, it really shows your own bias if you think that I should be afraid in that situation. Or if you think that a man should have stood up and protected me.
But I think what's really important to do in that moment is literally just keep your wits about you. I had my headphones off. I wasn't reading my book. I'm just looking straight down. What was really telling about the comments in that video, though, was that nobody had empathy for the guy who's obviously experiencing some sort of mental health. In case things...
Right. So nobody had empathy for the guy threatening everybody. Because she's going to clearly say that he has mental health problems, which may be true. But shame on everyone for having empathy for the people peacefully riding the subway and not threatening people.
do get violent, you can only protect yourself. But where is the empathy for somebody who has...
You can only protect yourself. That's what we used to rely on our law enforcement to do. And as women, we're physically weaker than men, you know, and we do often need to rely on men to protect us.
No support. Why is he having that episode on the subway? Why doesn't he have somewhere to go? Has blown my mind about living in New York. People...
Okay, well, okay, so we'll send him to your apartment first, since you're so non-biased and open to it. We have so many programs here for our homeless and our mentally ill.
People repeatedly calling homeless people crazies as if they're not real people.
Oh, so she took that little moment to virtue signal. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just over it. I'm over it. I'm done with this high crime. I'm done with this absolute emphasis on people who commit violence, who threaten violence, who do violence, who scare others, who excuses for bad behavior. I'm just a little over it. So that's what I have for today. Thanks very much for listening. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. I think I might have dental surgery. I don't know if I'll be able to talk, but if I can talk, I'll be on the air. And maybe, I hope, maybe get into the Chad Daybell stuff. I don't know. Are you guys watching that? I've been watching the Wisconsin River trial. It's been terrifying me. And terrifying me in the comments that so many people think that this guy should walk when he's clearly on video doing it. So I don't know how. It's out to the jury. We'll see how that goes. And also that he did so terribly on the stand. Hey, Shari D. Yeah, you need a drink, Colleen. Me too. Or maybe a blood. Yeah, that's how I feel. A blood pressure pill. Yeah, I just feel like this stuff raises my blood pressure. Yeah, and society pages. It's slow going. All right. Well, hopefully I'll be able to catch up a little bit tonight and see how that goes, since I kind of slept on Lori Daybell's trial. All right. Have a great night, everybody. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode, leave me a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Oh, hey, Shari D. Thank you, Shari D. I'm back. You don't have to miss me, Shari. I'm back, at least for a little bit. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys back here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.